Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch and Justin Kinney with you. And actually, wait, hang on. Ryan, is it pronounced Schuld?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll restart. I want to make sure I got that right. Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast from the WELT studios. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you as we record on a Thursday night, December 4th, and we'll get to some IndyCar stuff a bit later. But first, we'll be joined by Tanner Watkins and Ryan Schuld of the PRI Hoosier 500. Practice underway for the world's biggest sim race. Essentially, to make it short and sweet, we'll let them explain kind of how this works and kind of talk through the process. And then we'll talk next week with the pole sitter and then the week after with the winner of this race. So, Tanner and Ryan, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Caleb, for having us on. Obviously, you and I go back a little ways in the IndyCar media world and always thought you've done a great job. And so to be able to have New Track Record as a partner for the Hoosier 500, it's a big deal for us. And you guys have already gotten some cool content pushed out with some of our partners through the summer. So thanks for having us on, and it's been an exciting month of December so far.
Absolutely. You know, Tanner, I want to touch on, you talked about going way back, the Open Wheels 500 days. How did this event kind of blossom out of that and grow to what it is now?
Yeah, no, it's a great segue there. So we built off of, my old website that covered IndyCar racing, openwheels.com. We found basically a gap in the iRacing IndyCar community where, the iRacing Indy 500, it's a great event, but there are some limitations based on the scale of that event, some things that they can't quite replicate that we felt were missing from a true Indianapolis 500 simulation experience, basically for the public to enjoy. So that's where the Open Wheels 500 was formed and founded in 2019. I ran the event for a couple of years into 2020. Ultimately, felt like it was time for me to move on from the event, given some personal and professional changes in my life. So Arjuna Kankapati did a great job of shepherding that event in its two runnings in 2022 and 2024. He weathered the storm on a licensing dispute between iRacing and IndyCar that actually kept races from being broadcast in 2023. So he was basically the Tony Holman of this event and brought it back out of a difficult era, really. Thankfully, at the end of 2024, Ryan and I reconnected on an idea that we actually had back in 2021 before I decided to move on and sell the assets of the event. Got back together to put an effort forth to put on this race ourselves. Got the assets back from Arjuna after last year's running and have spent basically the last 11 months planning this year's event. So it's been a long road to get here, but we're really, really proud of the progress we've made. We rebranded the event into the Hoosier 500, as it's called now, to better reflect Indiana's racing heritage. We're both Indiana natives, and obviously, Caleb, you've got a great presence up there in Fort Wayne. So this event is just a love letter, basically, to the Indianapolis 500 and doing all we can from a sim perspective to give this experience back to the racers on iRacing.
Guys, you mentioned a long road to get here. How much has sim racing and iRacing changed, even just in 5 years, from the pandemic to the popularity that exploded from that? You mentioned the issues between iRacing and IndyCar. Now, all of a sudden, they've not only made amends, but we have, hopefully, a video game coming out in 2026 through iRacing. We've seen iRacing as part of the Fox broadcasts when we're breaking down the track. So just the evolution in just 5 short years between open wheel racing, IndyCar especially, and iRacing, and how it's affected your event.
Yeah, I think for this one here, obviously a lot happened when there was kind of the divide between iRacing and IndyCar, and that was unfortunate. But ever since it's been back, I think the partnership's been really good. They've been making a lot of changes just to make the product of the IndyCar on iRacing better. Obviously, added the aero screen over the last couple of years. Any major changes real life has made to the car, iRacing has eventually added. The biggest thing that's actually coming up and going to throw a real kind of twist into things to the 33 that make the Hoosier 500, the hybrid system in iRacing actually comes out literally next Monday, 6 days before the Hoosier 500 race. So the race setups that all of these guys have ran and made minor adjustments to over the last handful, call it 2 years, I mean, frankly, probably all goes way out the window. So 33 drivers, 33 teams are going to have, 6 days to work out and figure out how the hybrid is best utilized in the sim, because it's brand new to iRacing, effective next Monday afternoon. So that's going to throw a big wrench into things, but that just goes to show the partnership that's certainly been kind of rectified, where, it doesn't happen right away. It takes some time, but being iRacing, gets the car to be as real as the real life car as they can. And that's going to throw a big twist here in a couple days.
Would you guys mention this event, this race, and some people will immediately think, okay, they're just turning on their PC or a console, and they're just racing. What development, you mentioned about refining cars and everything. What's the development process for all of these entries, these entrants, to get ready for this race, get ready for qualifying and all that? Because it's much easier said than done.
Yeah, I think Tanner can hit this as well, but the one biggest part that's a little different from our specific race versus like the official iRacing Indy 500 or a lot of the other league Indy 500s, just from a setup perspective, we do the full warm-up lap like the real-life Indy 500 does. So the official 500, for example, you hit the pit exit line, and the next time you hit the start-finish, that's lap one, whereas here we have the entire warm-up lap. So essentially there's an extra lap of tire, deg, and a Q set, which can be a lot. So that's certainly one just twist that we have that most others do not. It's realism for us, and then, two, just an added factor that most of these guys haven't had to work with and work around before. I'm sure Tanner can add some info there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, what Ryan noted. And that kind of alludes back to some of the rules that we can put in place as a private event compared to a public event similar to the iRacing Indy 500. One thing you talk about, it's not just sitting down in a seat at your computer and making laps. These cars are very difficult to understand and set up, even on the simulation. We've got basically every setup option available that they have in real life. I think a great nod to the complexity and also the realism of iRacing is, all the conversation that was floating around in the past year or so at the real life Indy 500 about, manipulating the weight jacker and using that on straightaways to gain speed advantages. That's something we've been doing actually in iRacing for 3 or 4 or 5 years now. That was a trend that we were as iRacers very familiar with already. Wasn't anything new to us, and we were kind of like, oh wow, they're actually implementing this in real life, because we've been enjoying those speed gains for many years now. So there's certainly a lot of crossover, and when it comes to suspension geometry, tire pressures, things like that. You can probably push the extremes a little bit more in the sim. You also obviously don't have to worry about the consequences of hitting the wall at 230 miles an hour, but there are parallels, and it takes a lot of understanding of car dynamics, even within iRacing. It's certainly not just sitting down at the computer and taking a Sunday joyride.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll kind of mention to prove that point, so I obviously helped Tanner run this event, so I am not in the event, but the team that I kind of run, we've got 3 guys who are trying to make it, and I believe at this point we've turned some 800 laps this week purely in Q trim to try and get as much speed out of the car while having as little fall off as possible. So I'm sure there's some guys who are doing less than that, and there's probably some who are doing more, but that's the sort of commitment it takes to really, milk every second out of these.
And you talked about, all the laps. There's so many competitors too. If I remember correctly, 120 28 entries. I mean, we'd be thrilled to have a third of that for the Indy 500 in real life. So taking a look at the schedule, I mean, there's a lot of time in terms of for drivers to put down laps, but are you guys doing, 3 qual attempts and that's it? How is it going to work in terms of making sure everyone has an attempt, and then what's the procedure from then on?
Yeah, so each driver gets 3 attempts. If they so choose, they can get a guaranteed attempt on Saturday morning, and there'll actually be a qualifications draw held on Thursday that helps determine that order. From there, it's an all-skate open qualifying where it's first come, first served, and you get 3 attempts throughout the weekend. So each time you hit the track, you eliminate your previous attempt. There's no priority lanes or anything like that. We take the fastest 33 cars of everybody that has a valid attempt by the end of Sunday qualifying. And just like back in the day when it was a multi-weekend format at the Indianapolis 500, we grid day 1 qualifiers in front of day 2 qualifiers. So we will have a pole sitter determined at the end of the day on Saturday, and that'll basically be technically the only position that's locked in. Theoretically, from that point on, there could be 32 other fastest cars that make runs on Sunday that could shake up the order, but generally, you get a bunch of guys that are trying to sit on their Saturday times, and that adds intrigue because they might be getting close to the bubble, but if they feel like they'll stay within the top 33, they don't want to make another run on Sunday because their Saturday time will put them higher up on the starting grid. So it creates a lot of strategy and a lot of intrigue. And honestly, I think Ryan will probably say the same thing. Qualifying weekends probably, for us as promoters and the event organizers, it might be the most fun part of it as we try to whittle that list of 128 drivers from 16 different countries down to that vaunted field of just 33. So we're really excited about it. Big weekend ahead, and it's going to throw some curveballs just like the race week will.
Guys, how has this event grown in your years in running it and helping operate it? And do you see a crossover between popularity of IndyCar and the popularity of the event? Have you seen a rise in both, or one or the other, or one because of the other?
Yeah. I'll let Ryan chime in as well, because he's actually gotten to see this both as a competitor and now as an event organizer through the years. So I think he's got a really cool perspective. My just quick thoughts, I think we've done a great job of kind of maintaining momentum throughout the years. We, again, set a record for entries this year. I hope to set some viewership records as far as the broadcast for aligning with PRI and having this event on PRI's Facebook and YouTube channels, which we're really excited about. And then from the community perspective, I think it's got the same sort of juice that we hoped it would when we took over in December of last year. And I think we've got a great base to build on and a lot of momentum already rolling to 2026.
Yeah, I think just to add on, and as a competitor, I did this in 2020, was transparently not even close to fast enough, but me and a couple buddies gave it a go for some fun, and that's how I first got involved in the event. And this being my first year kind of co-owning it with Tanner, I think we've seen a really big spike in just overall community engagement, not just the iRacing community, but a lot of our partners for the actual event have been new to the event and been a vital part of kind of making this all go. Having you guys on board and being so involved with, talking to us, talking to the pole winner, talking to the race winner, that adds the realism factor where, the race winner goes on a media tour and such. Now, obviously, they're not going on a full tour, but they, get to chat with you guys, talk about their race day, stuff like that. And having the bulk of those partners be local has been, I think, really rewarding for Tanner and I. Pretty much every partner we've got is based in Indiana, has offices in Indiana, and have kind of bought into the community-driven mindset that Tanner and I have, and it's been really cool to see all of that grow.
Something I'm curious about, so we're not on iRacing, but we obviously recognize that is a segment of the IndyCar fan base that was probably more untapped up until recently. But how much would you say that people on iRacing get hooked on IndyCar because of iRacing, or are people who are already IndyCar fans getting onto iRacing? Like, is there kind of a breakdown that you've seen anecdotally with that?
I think it's a little bit of both, and Tanner can probably hit on this a little bit. I mean, I know for him, when he first got involved in iRacing as a driver, he was doing pretty much stock car stuff only, and then got into IndyCar, and I would assume started following IndyCar more because of that. But he can tell that story a little bit. But I think there's a blend of both. For me, there's two really good friends of mine who never watched IndyCar, or from Indiana, had never been to an Indy 500, but they got into iRacing with a buddy of mine and I who have always done both. And now, well, they watch IndyCar routinely. They wouldn't miss the 500 for anything. So I think there's probably a decent blend.
Yeah, I think that's a great story. I was a huge NASCAR guy, stock car guy growing up, pretty much through my whole life. And there was basically a perfect storm of around 2015. Jeff Gordon was retiring. I was just getting into iRacing. So pumped up to just run right through the stock car ladder. And I did that for a little bit, probably about 3 months. And in April of 2015, I ended up finding the iRacing Indy 500 and thought, okay, this is, it's part of my sub. I can get to the safety license required to run that event. And it was about after 2 laps at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that I basically gave up on my stock car career. So getting the chance to even on the video game and on what was really not a great Logitech wheel and pedal setup, getting a chance to see what that looks like and feel that and learn new dynamics of what, an IndyCar is all about on a high-speed oval, that was something that completely hooked me. And it wasn't, a year, and I was at the Indianapolis 500 for the first time as a fan at the 100th running in 2016. So everything kind of has grown from there, and I think iRacing really does need to take a lot of credit, in my own personal IndyCar fandom, because getting to drive this car, again, even on the simulation, gave me a great appreciation for what the men and the women do every Memorial Day weekend it's in Speedway, because it's not easy. It's not easy even on this game. It's a lot of fun, but I think it does create race fans for sure.
Guys, when you look at it, let's say we have some listeners that are interested in dabbling in iRacing or trying this event and in the future. We've seen the top of the line sims, right, with TK and stuff like that, and I can sling it around on the PS5 at Baku on F125 pretty good. I imagine there's a sweet spot between those two things on what it takes to really invest in a solid setup and really get started in something like this. Could you break it down for people that maybe are interested in it?
Yeah, I can kind of go over, I guess, my quote-unquote iRacing career from a technology perspective. When I first ever started, I had a Logitech wheel, couple $200-300, very basic computer where the only thing I had on it was iRacing. Another, call it $300 or $400, and then for iRacing, you've got to have a membership that's monthly or yearly, depending upon the package that you choose. And really, from a basic start perspective, that's really all you need now. Obviously, if you want to have minor upgrades and stuff, you certainly can, to where like now I have for me personally, I've got a 49-inch curved screen. I've got a nicer wheel now that has better force feedback and real simulation. And I've got a more fancy computer. But in terms of getting started, you can get started for $400 or $500 of getting a decent computer and a Logitech racing wheel, and you can kind of hit the ground running from there and grow your technology as quickly or as slowly as you would like.
It's something that I think is really cool about iRacing that's unique compared to other sports or esports is that, Justin mentioned TK and his crazy setup. Like, you can race against real drivers. Like, Dale Jr. is on iRacing, for example. IndyCar guys are on iRacing. So have you guys raced against, a true professional driver in iRacing? What was that experience like? And kind of how is that also, I think, one of the draws to iRacing?
Yeah, so I've done it a handful of times. I do a lot of league racing, Indy 500s throughout the year. That's kind of my most fun thing to do on the sim. I've been pretty lucky to race with some real right drivers in there. I've done one with Tony Kanaan. I've done one with Stephen Wilson, a few others along the way. So R.C. Enerson as well as someone who actually drove one of those 500s for the team that my buddies and I run this past May. So have had some dabbling into that with some of the real world drivers. Haven't raced with Dale Jr. yet. I have a couple buddies who have, and that's kind of would be the pinnacle, if you will, but I have had some exposure to that, and that just makes iRacing as cool as it is. I can't go play football with, Daniel Jones, the Colts quarterback, this Sunday. That's just not possible, really, whereas you can get as close to real-life racing as you can and do it with some of those real drivers, which is a really cool factor.
Yeah, just following up on my experiences, I worked my day job with NHRA, so getting the opportunity over COVID to get to run Indy cars with Ron Capps was a pretty unique experience. So iRacing brings that, and it's created some cool opportunities where back in the iRacing IndyCar Challenge, I spotted for James Davison and got to run through some races with him on that side of things, and that was a lot of fun. I even had Ryan Marine, the IndyCar radio network reporter, do some spotting for me and do some strategy in past iRacing Indy 500. So it just creates some cool overlap that, like Ryan said, you otherwise wouldn't normally get, especially with people that you look up to, people that have made their mark in the sport in various ways. And it's a pretty cool dynamic that, again, for a relatively low cost, you get to have some cool chance encounters for sure.
Who's the best? Is it R.C. Enerson? Is he the best past and present Indy 500 driver on iRacing?
I think, that'd be more of their question to answer, but with the experience that I have had, RC is very good in a lot of different cars as well. There's a league that I drive a lot in where he is also a pretty big part. He does trucks, Xfinity, or I guess O'Reilly now, Cup Series, IndyCar, et cetera. And, he kicks their butts pretty often. So he definitely knows what he's doing for sure.
Have either of you guys tried to qualify with a Lotus engine? Just wondering if that was an option in there.
It's not an option. Thankfully, no. There's been years where I've showed up to the Speedway for the iRacing 500, and I've been very concerned about the speed that I've got. So, no, thankfully not. But, the day that they put that in there, I don't think it'll be used very much, that's for sure.
I bet. Guys, give us a preview of what you guys have coming up. I know you're in the midst of practice, but you have qualifying coming up. Just break it down for everybody and where they can tune in and watch.
Qualifying is kind of the next big thing we've got coming up all weekend long. Saturday from, I believe we start at 6 a.m. and go till basically 8 p.m. And then Sunday, more or less the same thing. So definitely a couple long days ahead for everyone who's helping operationally. But like Tanner mentioned earlier, probably the most fun couple days of the whole month that we've got here from an operational standpoint. So that's definitely coming up. From a tuning in perspective, the happy hour each day will be aired on the Facebook and YouTube of PRI. So both those pages have a good subscription following already, which is exciting for us. And anyone who wants to go to tune in can go via those avenues. And that happy hour will be from 7 to 8 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday.
And gentlemen, you mentioned about the behind the scenes. I mean, take us through, what goes into this on the behind the scenes side, the production side of things.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of work. I think people would probably take for granted a lot of the elements that are in place because they don't purely understand everything that has to go into it behind the scenes. We've basically hired a production company that specializes in sim racing broadcasting to produce those final hour shows on pole day and bump day over the weekend for qualifications, as well as the race broadcast, including a full 1-hour pre-race show. So there's a lot that goes into it, from creative production elements and driver introductions that are going to be built and things like that help build the full pomp and circumstance of the day. And again, our main goal, our guiding light, is basically to deliver an experience that mirrors the Indianapolis 500. And in my opinion, there's no greater cadence to pre-race or even pregame ceremonies in any other sport that mirrors or best the Indianapolis 500. So we're just trying to give our best take on that, and it does take a lot of prep that basically started December 1st last year, and it hasn't stopped since. But we feel pretty good about the product that's being put out there on our social media, through our broadcast partners, whether that's daily live streams of every second of practice on the Hoosier 500 YouTube channel, or our nightly recap show of practice that airs each night, actually in about 2 minutes from real time right now on P1 Broadcasting and the Elite Racing Network. So it takes a family to make it all happen, and thankfully we've got a lot of great support from that side. It really builds out a special experience for our competitors, and leaves a nice digital trail for fans to not only find our content during the month of December when the races run, but it also helps people find us in the months that follow, and help build momentum towards the 2026 race, which is always helpful.
And before I let you guys go, again, the Hoosier500.com is the website to get all the info. Sunday, December 14th is race day, 11 a.m. Eastern. Hoosier 500 YouTube will have the pre-race show, and PRI Facebook and YouTube will have the race broadcast. Who's doing the virtual flyover? That's what I got to know.
That's a secret. We will push that out this coming week. It is a fan favorite, and we had to do a little bit of some sleight of hand work with another software that you can find on your personal computer, but it should be pretty cool. It'll tie together, what we think is a cool national anthem performer as well. So in the coming week, we'll have announcements on anthem, flyover. We've already announced Jim Cornelison has agreed to do Back Home Again in Indiana.
Oh, that's amazing.
So cool.
That's a big one for us, and really cool that he wanted to do that. So we've got some cool announcements coming out over the next 10 days that will really help build that momentum into race day, and hopefully intrigue a lot of people to tune in and see what the Hoosier 500 is all about.
Tanner, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on, and we look forward to talking with the pole sitter next week on our episode, and also the race winner the week after that as we wrap up our podcasts for 2025. Tanner, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks to Tanner and Ryan, and that was a throwaway question by me about the virtual flyover, but the fact that they're actually doing a real one, super impressive, and I'm super intrigued now.
Got Jim Cornelison.
Yeah, that I did know.
Back home again in Indiana.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, this is pretty cool. I mean, at first you kind of okay, you kind of scoff at it, but the level of detail that Tanner and the guys have put into this in recent years, and just the level of detail that iRacing in general has. And finally, after what was seemingly stupid beef on IndyCar's side with iRacing and not being able to come to an agreement with iRacing, thankfully that's in the rear view. But looking forward to this. And if anybody is really interesting in sim racing, iRacing, or just starving for something that resembles the real life Indianapolis 500, you can take it in here in just a week and a half or so.
Yeah, 10 days on December 14th, 11 a.m. Eastern. So I am intrigued.
Ceremonies, all that.
The whole thing. They've covered all their bases. I think that's what makes this unique and special to me, is that they've put in, as you mentioned, that attention to detail. So let's shift to IndyCar and happening on and off the track. And really only two big things we'll get to before we get to the mailbag and news and notes and our random split air driver of the week to wrap things up for this episode. But First, really a no surprise. We knew this was coming when we recorded the week before Thanksgiving. All signs were pointing to this, but Mick Schumacher officially confirmed full season with Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, and the number 47 entry with that team. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of attention on him in May and all season long, and rightfully so. This is good for IndyCar, as we kind of touched on in our previous episode when it looked like this was going to happen, but now officially confirmed. It's nice to have that confirmation. I think the confirmation came even quicker than we anticipated.
Right? We felt like maybe it would be the week after Thanksgiving this week before we heard it, but it was last week. Nothing much more to add other than what we talked about a couple weeks ago. I think it's a valuable addition to the paddock in a variety of ways. I think Mick Schumacher is a great talent. He adds name recognition, obviously, and I think it makes Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan a stronger team, albeit one with somebody that's going to have to come a long way on the ovals. But I think this is very much a win-win for Schumacher and IndyCar and RLL and the fans. And I'm looking forward to Mick coming over. And I always love to get the fresh perspective from guys that have grown up in Europe and went through the European ladder and have even raced Formula One and then coming over to IndyCar. I always find that fascinating, and it's they're always so appreciative, and it's there's always some obstacles too on track in the paddock, all that, but they always seem appreciative of the opportunity and maybe for some another chance, and that's kind of what you look at it with Mick Schumacher. The problem with so young drivers in Formula One is that if you're spit out the bottom, you can still be in your 20s. And that's where Mick Schumacher is, his mid-20s. He's got his entire life and plenty of racing to go, yet it's so easy to just write him off because he's out of Formula One. So it's great to see Mick get this opportunity. He seems gung-ho about it, and looking forward to him to be on the paddock and on the grid in 2026.
Very much looking forward to seeing what he can do, not just in May, but every track will be a new challenge for him, but also, like you said, a significant improvement for this team, despite having two young but talented drivers. Louis Foster going into his second year, Mick Schumacher, obviously a rookie, and it makes the Rookie of the Year battle more
an actual
interesting
battle
as well.
Right? I still am going to be floored the first time we see the graphic up there and Schumacher on the graphic for an IndyCar race or practice or qualifying or whatever. It's going to be quite shocking. Even knowing it's coming, the first time it happens, the first time we see it, or it may not hit you until a random practice in the middle of the year where you're like, holy crap, there's a Schumacher racing in IndyCar. It's not Ralph, it's not Michael, it's Mick. And I think that'll be pretty cool.
For sure. And then the other confirmation was, well, much ado about nothing after a lot of talk and the team kind of playing coy. Juncos Hollinger Racing officially announced Stingray Robb will be back with the team for 2026, the full season. I did think the verbiage was fascinating. I don't know if you caught the verbiage that they used.
I'm sure
for this
it
announcement.
Was interesting, to say the least.
I think the whole and I got to look for the official thing, but
I felt like it was finally confirmed. What was it? It was
yeah. It was essentially like he's back to play out his contract.
Yeah.
Year 2 of his contract, and it was kind of like, okay.
It was look, we couldn't find the money to buy him out. We didn't have anybody that would bring the money to get him out. He couldn't go anywhere else. We couldn't, push him somewhere other direction. We're basically stuck with him for 2026. That's basically what's going on at Juncos Hollinger. It's a great opportunity for Stingray Robb, for sure, but they're stuck with each other for 2026. And Stingray Robb it's his right. It's the contract he signed, and Juncos Hollinger signed it too. And so it's his seat until something changes. And obviously there wasn't a strong enough performance clause in that contract that allowed, say, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan to move on from a Devlin DeFrancesco. But, Juncos Hollinger are probably going to learn going forward to make sure that kind of language is in a contract, because if it was, I don't think Stingray Robb is back. But hey, he is. We'll see if he can improve upon his 25th place finish in the points a year ago.
Nick Yeoman did point this out. I did find it interesting. He did match a career best 9th place finish at Long Beach, and that was a race that was fully green, if I remember correctly, which we were impressed at the time. I mean, that was a good effort. The season didn't really go that well for Stingray after that, but Nick Yeoman pointed out, first time that Stingray returns to the team he raced for the previous season. So continuity. Continuity is good, so we'll see if that helps. But that's really about it in terms of driver news and whatnot, and kind of the headline things for this past week. The other nugget from the Racer mailbag, there's been, rumors on social media and whatnot, is Yuki Tsunoda going to come to IndyCar, and this is prior to the news that Red Bull dropped him from the F1 ride. He's still a test and reserve driver, but Marshall Pruitt kind of tamping down those rumors. He said on Coyne and Tsunoda, might have noticed we never mention it in any of our silly season pieces on Racer. That's because it was a nothing burger. And then he kind of goes on to say that, Honda, like, why would they pay for that if they're not even confirmed for beyond 2026, which is a valid point.
It is, and I think especially once we saw Yuki Tsunoda out of that seat, that we felt, hey, if he's out at Red Bull, possibility potentially, but maybe if it happened months earlier, there could be something. I think maybe Yuki Tsunoda is somebody to watch for 2027, maybe. Who knows? We're getting Mick for 2026. Could we get Yuki for 2027? We'll see, but not going to be part of the grid in any capacity in 2026.
So those are really the headlines for this week. If you enjoy the podcast, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media. IndyCar Podcast, the handle on Twitter /X. Also on Instagram, on Facebook, just search for New Track Record. As always, you can send us your questions, comments, and rants via email, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. You can support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Reed and others for their support. And as always, download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you send your podcasts. And if we show up in your Spotify wrap, please send us a screenshot via social media or email, because that's always fun to see as those come out here over the next several days. Mailbag time, obviously not a ton to dive into.
Do we have, real quick, going back to I know they used to do podcast wrap.
Yeah, I haven't received anything, but we did get that previously.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we'll get that this year or not.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. So several things in terms of replies. A lot of this related to the Mick Schumacher news. But first, Lynn had a couple of questions. First, with the new Now Stay Tuned exhibit at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame Museum. Do you have a favorite pit reporter? Said mine is the G-Man. Do you have a favorite pit reporter? I mean, it's got to be Jack Arute, right?
I was thinking it's Jack Arute and his cigarillos. Yeah, for sure. I and you know what was funny is I was scrolling Facebook mindlessly. You're laying in bed doing that, right? And a episode of Home Improvement came on, where it was on Tool Time, and they had Michael and Mario Andretti
and Marco.
Really, I thought it was Mario and Michael that came.
They were featured, but then I think Marco was also featured in a scene, I believe.
Okay, because the scene I saw was when they were going to race to carve up a turkey, and to do the commentary was Jack Arute.
Oh, I did not know that.
Came out. So he waved the green flag to commence. And then, of course, Tim Allen goes off the deep end and brings out a chainsaw to start cutting up his turkey, and hilarity ensues. But I will have to say, Jack Arute for me is one of my faves, if not my favorite.
What about a random split era pit reporter of the week? Do you have a name you could throw out?
Split era pit reporter.
I'm going to throw out Brianne Pettigo. Everyone remembers Jamie Little, but Brianne Pettigo did.
I would have never come up with that
broadcast
in a million years. Who are some of the ones that did the pit reporter? Like I thought Dr. Jerry Punch was great.
Yes, he was great.
He did it. Yeah, Brianne Pettigo. Gosh,
I pulled an obscure
Welch
one on you.
there, right?
Yeah, Vince Welch was great.
I can't beat yours.
No.
But yeah, I mean,
you could if we did all commentators, because you throw in Todd Harris, of course.
Correct. I mean, Jan Beek is up there. He did pit. I mean, we liked him in his later years when he was more the tech guy and stuff like that. But Jan was doing it. But yeah, Jack LaRouche is up there. I was partial to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Yes, he's great pit reporter. Dylan did a great job with NBC.
Yeah, he did.
He was on there. This also from Lynn. You guys were pretty hard on Graham Rahal. I have a lot of respect for him because unlike the other famous last name driver who just retired and drove for his dad's team, Graham started at Newman Haas and CGR before going to RLL. Better career than Marco. Yes, because he's won like triple the races.
But he's also, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't think you guys were harsh on Graham Rahal. I think I was harsh on Graham Rahal. I stand by what I said.
And then several replies on the official news for Mick Schumacher. Lynn said RL is making major moves with Jay Fry in charge. Be interesting to see where they fall next year. Poet Shevchenko said, wasn't it a few months ago that we thought everything in the silly season would be settled by season's end and it would be a quiet off season? I'm happy to be getting some big stories at this point in the year. Ferrari_podcast said, Formula One veteran. I mean, I'm thrilled that Mick is moving to IndyCar, but did RLL forget his stint in F1? Look, if you've raced in F1, you're considered an F1 veteran. That's just how the phrasing works.
Well, is he saying more his performance in F1 should be indicative of, past performance isn't an indication of future results, right? Or
yeah.
You want to say? I mean, I think a lot of Formula One is the car you're in, right?
I would say it's 90% car, 10% driver.
He was in a horrible Haas car for 2 years? Horrible.
Yeah.
That was when Uricali was the sponsor, right?
Was he teammates with Nikita Mazepin?
I think so.
Mazepin
was it 2021? Where the not the All-American, but the American team was doused in Russian flag colors.
Ugh.
Look, part of me is saying, okay, is Mick Schumacher where he's at, or did he achieve certain things due to nepotism? Probably, but I also think, doors open for Mick Schumacher that probably otherwise would have been closed. But do I think that he was deserving of an F1 seat? Yes, absolutely. He was just with a Haas team for 2 years that was absolutely terrible. It was brutal. And, put him with Mercedes and we're talking something different. So, especially back then, 2020, 2021, 2022. So I think Mick Schumacher, like I said earlier, is a worthy addition to IndyCar paddock. I don't care where he finished in Formula One, to be honest.
Tyler Wong 65 said, good move by RLL, bringing in one of the biggest household names in all of motorsports to build their team towards competing for wins again this season. I don't even think you want to go as far as competing for wins. It's just compete for being in the top half of the field, like be the best of the midfield, right? Outside of the big four teams, if you can be that fifth team, I think you've made huge strides. I think that's maybe the first goal. Yes, of course you want to win races, but I think start small and then build from there. Ferrari podcast also had this. I was wanting to get your thoughts on J.R. Hildebrand's Blackbird 66 project. How do you think this would look? Here's my issue with this project. No one actually wants to see IndyCars braking going into a turn for qualifying at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And that's what this would cause. No one wants to see that.
Yeah, does it present some interesting scenarios? Yeah, but correct. Nobody wants to see it. Sounds good. Oh, make the cars difficult to drive. You don't want to see people braking into turn and going into the short chutes, right? I just Look, a lot of this is above my head because J.R. Hildebrand is very smart, and car design is by people that are a lot smarter than you or I. But the reason why we have cars, why we have them, is it's the best possible product of that the technology we have has currently taken us to, right? It's like the cars are designed this way because they're the best possible things for this. Tweaks, yes, but I think part of this too opens up a conversation with the new car. Is some people want to see something so different from what we currently have. When it's like, this is, auto racing's been around for 100, 150 years. Like, this is where technology has gotten us. It's kind of like Formula One, is everybody kind of wants to change the look of Formula One cars. Like, the technology has taken us here. Radical changes are not going to change the sport for the better, in my opinion. And so I think it's an interesting case study. I think it has some positives, but it also has some clear negatives that people just kind of want to ignore because the car looks different. And it's like the car looks the way it looks is because that's where all the technology and development over years and years and years has taken us.
Removing the wings is just simply not, like, we're not going back to a roadster type era.
When wings were developed, that changed things dramatically,
yes.
Right? Speeds got greater, right? I mean, all this aerodynamic, everything's about aerodynamic and smooth, air over the car, and you just want to completely take that away is just kind of, I guess it would change racing, and some people think racing needs changed. I don't think it needs changed.
I don't think it needs change in that aspect.
Dramatically, right? Yeah,
I think it needs change in how IndyCar goes about things as it becomes potentially even more spec than what it was before. I think that's maybe more of a concern.
And I think to me too, like, you look at the popularity growth of Formula One, and it's not because of the cars. It's because of the companies involved in the cars and the glamour and the flash and all that stuff.
It's
the cars is almost holding it back, right? They're huge.
Yeah, everything in Formula One, I think the draw, one, obviously Drive to Survive was the perfect promotion at the perfect time for that series. But then I think secondarily, you have drivers and cars in a series that everything's glamorous, right?
Right.
So it feels unattainable, but it's kind of like that's why we watch, right? That's kind of the celebrity culture of our world is you get that inside look and to see these people do superhuman things.
You want to feel like a part of something elite or watch something elitist, right? Mm-hmm. And it loans itself. We just recently came off the Vegas Grand Prix where, who's who of celebrities are there. And you have Ferrari involved and Mercedes involved and Alfa Romeo involved and keep going on and on. And these are mega luxury car companies, right? If IndyCar came out with some radically different, let's say they adopted that design, do I think all of a sudden 3 million people are tuning into each and every race? No. And there'd probably be plenty of pushback on what happened to the close racing with that thing. So that's a roundabout way to say I'm not really intrigued by it.
Yeah. So that's the mailbag. We move on to news and notes and continuing forward. So first off, we talked about Mick Schumacher. When is he going to get in a car? Well, Marshall Pruitt of Racer had pinned an article a couple weeks back talking about, they want to get in an oval test in January sometime, but it may actually just be the open test, and that will be at Phoenix. And that will be coming up in February, and we got dates for some of the testing events. This, in part, Good Ranchers being named the title sponsor for IndyCar's return to Phoenix Raceway, be the Good Ranchers 250. And in terms of testing, the open test for IndyCar will be February 17th and 18th, ahead of the season opener at St. Pete, February 27th to March 1st. So, and then you have the schedule is just really jam-packed after that. So that could be the first look, though, of Mick Schumacher is at the open test coming up in mid-February.
Yeah, that's a crucial test at Phoenix because, as we've mentioned, tire compounds. How does this work when you have NASCAR rubber on the track. And NASCAR is going to want to make sure that IndyCar's rubber it's laying down isn't affecting its rubber, the Goodyear rubber. So I think that's going to be an interesting tire test. More interesting than most tests, anyway.
We talked about sim racing. What about IndyCar iRacing video games? Second half of 2026, says Marshall Pruitt per this week's Racer.com mailbag. In terms of testing news for IMS, so they did that big repave.
I saw
a few
this
weeks
today. What, Monday's coming out?
Yes.
Four-part series?
Four-part series starting on Monday on, I believe, on their YouTube and all social media for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll take a look at what they did in Turn 2 and kind of cover all that. So that's going to be a cool thing to watch as they took the track apart and then put it back together.
Like all the way
testing.
down to bricks and much bigger project than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they said, we smoothed out the bump in Turn 2. Okay. And then you see the video of the preview of the four-part series, and you're like, this was quite a project.
Yes. Yes, it was. Alex Palou is on a tour of Spain with the Borg Warner Trophy. He went to the FC Barcelona Stadium. He was part of an award ceremony with one of the media outlets in Spain. And then he's getting ready, of course, for the Daytona 24 as well, as is Will Power, who will take place with Mercedes AMG in the Rolex 24, be the debut, which is hard to believe for Will Power in the Rolex 24.
Yeah, just one of those guys that you presumed had done it before, but hasn't until a couple months from now.
This is exciting right around the holidays. You have the Parkside Collectibles IndyCar cards. They've just released this. The holiday bundles are out now. 6 hanger packs of 2025 and 1 2024 hanger throwback, plus 1 guaranteed autograph relic. They have it all. So again, Parkside Collectibles, that's where you get the IndyCar cards. Tickets have dropped for 2026 at Gateway, including the IndyCar weekend, which will be a night race again. And Marshall Pruitt did say that the TV times for Fox for 26 are imminent. So hopefully we'll have that to talk about next week.
That will be good to know, considering we expect some with World Cup, maybe some not some unusual start times, maybe for a couple races.
Couple of notes surrounding Prima. First off, I don't know if you saw this, but Iron Dames, which is, I believe, the same ownership as Prima, they're stepping away from WEC this year.
That's not good.
Yes, I don't know if that's good or bad. And then Robert Schwartzman released his single, Roll Deep. I don't know. Did you know he did music? I did know that.
No.
I caught a listen. It's kind of like, I don't know, like club music. I don't know. Like it's got a nice beat.
You do you.
Yeah.
You do you, Schwartz.
So yeah, it's out on, I think, Spotify, Apple Music, all the regular platforms. Continuing on in news and notes, Penske Entertainment named a Sports Business Journal Best Place to Work in Sports. So congrats to them.
Does it have a comment from Jay Fry on
that? Jenna Fryer had a good follow-up on Valentino Rossi passing on McLaren's Indy 500 seat. Basically, Rossi said that he respects the Indy 500 IndyCar, but his full focus is on his WEC ride as he's trying to dive into that, so understandable. Kevin Lee, couple of notes from him. First off, he found this 100 Days to Indy for this season has been airing on FS1 the last couple of weeks, so check your DVRs if you haven't set it. So I need to check mine. I know it was recording an episode the other day on YouTube TV as I was scrolling. And then also they have already announced the Burger Bash, and next year it will be on the Thursday prior to the 500, May 21st, at the USAC building across the street from IMS Gate 1. So they'll partner with IU Cancer Center again, Cluster Truck, food truck. So I think it's great that they moved it back to that Thursday night. I think it'll be a bigger crowd. And have you ever checked out one of those?
I've not. What did it get moved to? The Friday?
I think it was like on the Monday or Tuesday prior.
Okay, so it was earlier.
Yeah,
in the week. Gotcha.
I've gone once or twice. They had it on at 96th Street for a couple of years. I think I had it there, and there's another year I think I went. So, but live broadcast there, so you can check that out. Let's see, what else do we have on the agenda? Marshall Pruitt We'll get to this tweet, but about the lights car. He did have an interview with former Team Penske president Tim Cindric, who said, I've had some interesting inquiries within and outside of motorsport, but I haven't committed anything yet to speak of. Seems like he's enjoying just kind of relaxing. He kind of said, motorsport's been my life for 30 years, and I'm just taking a minute, which can't blame him for that.
Definitely his right.
You see that Cadillac, with their new F1 team, they're going to debut their livery of the car during a Super Bowl TV spot next year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Obviously, IndyCar adjacent there with that. Congrats to Joey Barnes. He is returning to motorsport as senior editor IndyCar and IMSA. So good to see him get back covering writing of the sport. Pato O'Ward will be racing FP1 for McLaren in Abu Dhabi on Friday. It's funny, the young driver testing, and I'm like, I don't really think of Pato as a young driver for IndyCar, let alone F1.
Yeah, right. Well,
he's done enough. He's had enough
F1.
F1 seat time. It seems kind of silly to call him a young driver, but he'll be taking part in FP1 on Friday.
Which, hey, heading into the season finale, 3 drivers can win a championship in Formula One. So, best championship that we've seen Formula One have in what, since 2021?
2020 or 21, yeah.
So, if you're starving for motorsport, there's a lot on the line heading into Abu Dhabi this weekend.
And a lot on the line in Indianapolis on Saturday night with the Big Ten title game. Indiana taking on Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2. And why am I bringing this up? Because IndyCar will be a part of it. The IU football team will depart from the south side of Memorial Stadium on Friday at 5:30 local time. IndyCar will lead them. And also, an IndyCar car will meet and escort Ohio State buses to the Buckeyes Hotel in Indianapolis. So,
wondering if Graham Rahal will drive that.
He should.
To escort Ohio State into town.
He absolutely
Battle of
should.
Undefeateds. Ohio State and Indiana coming up on Saturday night.
Should be an interesting game. With that, a couple other notes. Alan Pagan, one of the original IRL entrants, Pagan Racing, we talked about with our random split air drivers of the week team, finished second at the Indy 500 one of those years. He passed away at the age of 70 a couple of weeks ago. And then Fuzzy Zeller, you probably remember Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka as the sponsor for Ed Carpenter Racing for several years. Obviously, that the namesake of the golfer.
Sponsored the Turn 2 Suites.
Yes.
Several years as well.
84 U.S. Open champion, 85 Bob Jones Award recipient. He died the other week as well, 74 years old, native of Indiana as well. So a couple of passing away. And then some good news, Georgia Henneberry. Congrats to her as she got engaged over the Thanksgiving break to her now fiance, Chris Wyndham. So congrats to Georgia.
Chris Wyndham, former
USAC driver, competed in the Freedom 100 as well.
And you mentioned it, the wreck that convinced Roger Penske to get rid of the race, the Freedom.
Unfortunately so, yes.
His car effectively broke in half.
Yes.
And that was when Roger was like, no, we can't have this. And I remember I was in the pits for that race, and I was back in the garage when they brought the car back. It was not in good shape.
No, I'm sure it was not.
Not. And I think Roger looked at it and said, we're lucky he didn't die in that race, in that wreck.
Anything that we missed?
I think one thing that pointed out, if you're following...
Oh, I'll get to that. You're talking about the NASCAR trial?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that one of your tweets of the week?
Oh, absolutely it is.
But is it from Adam Stern's post?
Yes.
Okay, but I also want to say, also with that is John Oriovich has been posting and basically was like, we're almost like exactly what I wrote about in Indy Split, and it's happening right now in NASCAR. So whether you're a NASCAR fan or wanting NASCAR to break apart, don't think that's going to happen. But a lot of dirty laundry is being aired in this trial. So if you're interested in such things, check it out. But we'll have more on that in Tweets of the Week coming up soon.
Yes, it is time now for Tweets of the Week.
Let's do it.
Perfect segue. So I'll save that for last. But Connor Daly had posted Best ever race result for the team, best Indy 500 qualifying and race result for the team, most points scored by a driver for the team in a season. Tied for best qualifying result for the team, 17-5 against teammates in race results during my time with the team. Extremely proud of what we were able to accomplish together in a short period of time. Thank you to all the folks who put in the hard work, obviously referring to his time at Juncos Hollinger Racing. Now, Stingray Robb did have a classy comment to that post via Instagram. He said, your value is proved to a lot of people this year. I have a feeling we'll see you back on the grid soon. It's good being teammates this year. Thanks for all you gave to the team. Obviously, some class just responding because obviously Connor, rightfully so, frustrated.
He performed enough to get that seat, but money talks.
That is racing. And then we have this, as you foreshadowed. Adam Stern posted this. Team lawyer Jeffrey Kessler in court brought up the IndyCar racing split from 1996 to 2008 and said that as a result of that split, quote, the teams got a better deal, end quote, in the end. He said, quote, that's what NASCAR was trying to block when it made moves to ward off competition, which is, I had posted, of all the wrong takeaways from the split, this is certainly one of them. And yes, that is certainly one of the takeaways. Not the correct
interesting,
one. But
you're trying to prove a point and using a bad example.
Very bad example.
For sure. I thought also interesting when I looked up that tweet, I fumbled upon the one we saw earlier today about Steve O'Donnell, the president of NASCAR. We talked about, IndyCar should go to Chicago now, and we're talking about the Mexico race. Steve O'Donnell, the president of NASCAR, in his testimony, apparently commented that NASCAR lost $55 million on the Chicago street race through 3 years and $6 million on the Mexico City race in 1 year. He also did say that was money well spent because it allowed them to get the Amazon deal. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But I guess my point is for those that want IndyCar and Roger Penske to swoop in and pay for these races, and we know how tight-fisted Roger Penske is with his money with IndyCar, more so than all of us would like, do you really think he's going to spend money on a Chicago street race that lost NASCAR $55 million in 3 years? Or even a Mexico City race that lost $6 million in a year? That's the balance we need to remember and say, the coffers for NASCAR, the coffers of Formula One are so much deeper than IndyCar, despite the fact that we have a billionaire running the series. But hey, it's his money, not ours.
Before I get to one reply on all that lawsuit nonsense, Marshall Pruitt has said, before we got the shapely Delora IL-15 Indy Lights car that's still in service, this was Delora's proposed Indy Lights car from 2012 for 2014. If you're having a Pam from the office reaction while comparing the Lights car to the 2012 Delora DW12 Indy car below, well, that being said, the IL-15 is on the clock for a refresh. Should IndyCar pin something unique or follow Delora's thinking here and make a simplified version of the next IndyCar? And it literally looks the same. But I just thought it was funny. It's the same picture thing. And then Poet Shevchenko had this, and I thought it was worthy of tweets of the week. I'm looking forward to the 2026 US 500 at Michigan in February. Talking, this NASCAR lawsuit.
Very successful.
You know what's throwing me off with this NASCAR lawsuit is one of the team owners involved, and I believe it's Front Row Motorsports. I've only followed this casually in passing, but his name is Bob Jenkins. So I do a double take every time I see Bob Jenkins' name. Today. And I'm like, wait a second. No, this is NASCAR Bob Jenkins, not obviously IndyCar Bob Jenkins, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But it's messing with my head with all that.
Yeah, but a lot of grievances are being aired in courtrooms, and if you need good laughs, check it out. It's not up our alley, but there's some things like we mentioned that kind of pop out at us and go, huh?
Yeah. With that, time for our random split air driver of the week. Speaking of the split, let's revisit it.
Split, let's go to the heyday of open wheel racing in North America, the split era, and go with Alex Figge, Figge.
I remember the name.
Figge, an American race car driver born in Davenport, Iowa.
The Quad Cities.
Yeah, the breadbasket of America, also the breadbasket of
Also home to a very controversial pizza.
Really?
Yes.
The Quad City Pizza?
Yeah, Quad Cities Pizza.
Why is it controversial?
I got to remember what exactly like the toppings are known for, because I think they put American cheese on it.
They're not allowed to put American cheese on?
Yeah, Quad
City style.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
Yes.
I didn't even know this was a thing.
It includes malts in the crust, tomato sauce made with red chili flakes or cayenne pepper, toppings placed under the cheese, cut into strips instead of triangular slices. So it's a style of pizza. So it's not the one that uses American cheese, but that is a different one.
Okay.
But
I see the pictures. Yeah.
So there you go. No, I've not. I've not been to the Quad City.
Well, I wonder if Alex Figge has had some. He competed. He started off in Star Mazda, and he captured a victory at Portland in 2000, driving for World Speed Motorsports. He made his way into Champ Car in the 2007 season with Pacific Coast Motorsports. And owned by one of the owners was Tom Figge, which I imagine was his father. He was partnered with Ryan Dalziel, a former Random Split Era Driver of the Week, and competed for the majority of the season in that 2007 season. The only race he missed was Houston in 2007 due to an injury suffered at Long Beach. His best finish of the season was 8th at Vegas, which was a highly attritional race, so he was probably one of like 9 drivers left at the end. 2008, Pacific Coast Motorsports moved over into the IRL. He finished 14th at Long Beach that race, and that was pretty much it. He left open wheel racing and transitioned to sports cars and raced in the American Le Mans Series, the GT2 class, did Pirelli World Challenge, and did that for pretty much the rest of the 2000s, early 2010s. And that was it. So 2007 Champ Car, 2008 one race with Pacific Coast Motorsports, and I'm looking at their
Ryan DL, by the way.
DL, my bad. Ryan DL. I forgot all that middle stuff was silent, but Alex Figge, that 2007 season, Ryan DL was the other full-time driver. Mario Dominguez started 3 races for them. Roberto Moreno was the sub.
The super sub.
Yes, for Alex Figge in that Houston race that he missed. They raced in the, what I think is still one of the more beautiful cars, the Panos DP01, which was the best part of Champ Car at that point. In the Panos DP01 Cosworth engine, he did race in that one race in 2008, and that was it. Still just 44 years old, once again, a native of Davenport, Iowa. Maybe we'll hit him up for some Quad City style pizza. Alex Figge, this week's Random Split Era Driver of the Week.
All right, that does it for us. Thanks to Tanner Watkins, Ryan Schuld, for Justin Kinney. I am Caleb Hatch. We'll be back next week. We'll chat with the pole sitter for the PRI Hoosier 500 and discuss the latest and greatest in the world of IndyCar. This has been New Track Record Podcast.